Conversation. Free dreamers from any fear of deportation, and the least insured state in the country could take the lead on guaranteed high-quality universal health care. You have inspired me in this race, and I'm grateful to have the chance to represent you. Thank you.
Senator Cruz, 2 minutes.
The classic question in politics, are you better off now than you were 2 years ago? Is Texas. Elections are about choices. Do we continue on the path we're on, or do we turn back? The records of Congressman O'Rourke and myself could not be more different. On taxes, I want to cut your taxes. Congressman O'Rourke wants to raise them. On job-killing regulations, I want to repeal them. Congressman O'Rourke wants to increase them. On Obamacare, I want to repeal Obamacare, reduce premiums, protect pre-existing conditions, and expand access. Congressman O'Rourke wants socialized medicine, the federal government in charge of your health care and your doctor, which, among other things, would threaten to bankrupt Medicare. I want to keep the economic boom we're experiencing right now going, moving forward. Congressman O'Rourke wants the next 2 years to be drawn into the partisan circus of impeachment proceedings against President Trump. Elections are about who we are. Do we choose fear, or do we choose hope? I believe in hope. My mom was the first one in her family to go to college, and she was a pioneer professional woman. My dad came from Cuba with nothing. Washed dishes making 50 cents an hour, came here seeking the American dream. If someone had approached my dad in 1957 and said, 50 years hence, your son will be a U.S. Senator representing the state of Texas, that teenage immigrant could never have believed it. And yet, as I stood on the Senate floor with my hand on my dad's Bible, there was my father in the gallery, tears running down his eyes. Only in America. This is a choice about keeping the boom going, we have the lowest Hispanic unemployment ever.